game today. I'm so
Yeah.
excited. We're going to get off the air here, and then I'm literally just going to park myself in front of the TV, and I get to watch the Pirates at 11 a.m. here, broadcast on the West Coast. Jennifer, what do you think? Bubble, no bubble? Is it the only way to save the season?
I think, yes, bubble. And I think you do it in New York where you have the least amount of cases. And if you wanted to do two stadiums, you could do two stadiums. You've got the Mets and you've got the Yankees, and it's fine. I mean, just like Ozzy said, there's no fans. So it's not like you have home field advantage. It doesn't even matter. The ballparks are already prepared as far as the clubhouses go. They've got the social distancing down. I think you do it where there's the least amount of cases, and it works. They're in close proximity to each other. I think it would work here in New York. The only other place that I could think of, just because of the weather, if it gets cold, maybe down in Texas, and because you've got the stadium, but I would say New York. Yeah.
Well, I think Governor Cuomo would also agree with you, as he was trying to get everybody to come and play in New York State. But it is true. I think a bubble might be on the horizon. Now, moving on, for some good news for the Cardinals, one of the teams heavily impacted by COVID-19. They have been cleared to travel. They are finally released. They have been rescued from Milwaukee, where they were held captive in a hotel room as they were waiting to play that series against the Milwaukee Brewers. And then again, against the Detroit Tigers. And they, both those series were canceled, but they're free to travel, resume games. They have been sequestered for more than 7 days. They are now allowed to go back home to St. Louis, where they will take on the Cubs, which will be visiting on Friday. This is some good news because these guys were getting mighty antsy. Ozzy, when you take into account how heavily these guys were hit, how much do you think it is going to impact their play on the field, the fact that they were unable to work out?
It's going to impact their play because hopefully they can come out and there's no injuries. But it wasn't like these guys were in a hotel practicing, in the basement hitting. They were just sitting around. And when you're quarantining your own home, that's awesome because I think you can deal with it better. When you're in a hotel past 5 days and you're stuck in the same room, the Wi-Fi is great, but it can get to you, and it's really hard to stay going. So the manager's going to have to look at these guys very closely. Playing time, getting back into it. I think that they'll probably drop the first game, and their first series probably won't be the best. Hopefully they can use that the energy of wanting to be outside to kind of promote their drive to play, but it's not going to be easy. Being in the same place for 7 days is, it's hard as it is without having to play baseball, add baseball on top of that, not easy.
I also think, though, it does affect them physically, but we saw the Marlins come back and play and win. So It can affect them. And then in other cases, they probably have more drive to go out there. So that also helps.
Yeah, but what about the mental tax on these guys? Ozzy, you kind of touched on it, but the fact that they've been sitting there in a hotel room for 7 days. Think about this. Quarantined, no personal refrigerator. Think about how often we make trips to the refrigerator or the pantry, right?
No,
and
for
now
sure.
you don't have that, and you're basically relying. These guys were not even able to go out and get a cup of coffee. You are relying on room service, which can be touch and go. Can you imagine?
You can't even get drunk because everybody's gonna know how much you drank. Like, will you just order all the mini bar? Trust me.
Again, you send somebody to go to the store.
Correct, you have to go, but that's what I'm saying though. So and even from what I've gathered, they were even not allowed to go from room to room.
No,
right.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like, hey, so and so, I'm gonna come hang out in your room and play cards. So people have a misconception how this whole quarantine's happening. They're not having a slumber party. You're literally in your room and everyone's watching you, and everyone obviously is watching you because the media's made a huge thing about all the cases and we want to know what's happening. But I think the mental tax, I think that it could completely break you down, or you're just so excited to be outside and to be able to play baseball that you are energized and you take it on the opponent. So
it'll either break you down or it will make you perfect your trick shot. Watch this video of #QuarantineLife. Adam Wainwright, member of the Cardinals, who perfected his trick shot. Watch this.
In the remote box.
Anything to keep busy, right?
And not go crazy. I think we all know, right? The first couple of weeks that we were all quarantined at home, it was like, oh my God, cabin fever, and you just want to get out. And now I can't even imagine being just in a room where
I wonder if somebody learned something. Like, hey, I read 4 books. Like, if Dita Gregorius was quarantined for 7 days, he'll come back and being like, hey, I can code in 2 languages. Because he's every time there's been a break, he's like comes back. I'm an artist. I do tattoos. Again, these are times that you have to maintain yourself. Again, we're lucky enough now that we know what these players are doing, like social media and him doing his strict shot. But again, you have to keep your mind off of it. You're talking to your family a lot because again, there goes the personal part. You're scared. You got a little weird feeling on your throat. Oh my God, do I have it? Where did I get it? So again, you have to the managers and the staff in the biggest age of analytics have to go away from that and actually be managers and be human beings and ask these guys, are you okay? How are you feeling? How's the family? How are you feeling to be able to play today? And then that will translate to the field because these guys are human beings and you lock up anybody for 7 days, it starts getting hard for them. And obviously, hopefully, thank God they're out and they get to go home now and sleep in their own beds. And hopefully that reflects for them and they don't completely flop in this 3-game series.
Yeah, there were 13 positive tests on the Cardinals, 7 players, 6 staff. Caesar on Facebook says prayers for Yadi and his teammates. Hope that they all get better soon. Of course, Yadi Molina was announced on Twitter that he has fallen victim to the coronavirus and he is dealing with that. We wish him all of the best in his recovery. And of course, the rest of the Cardinals team, the ones who were affected and also the ones who are left standing, who now have to grapple with new guys from the taxi squad joining their team, and hopefully they'll be able to battle back on Friday. And the Marlins were also greatly affected. Derek Jeter speaking out on behalf of his guys. Watch this video for what he had to say to the media as it pertains to his team.
There's no salacious activity. There's no hanging out at bars, no clubs, no running around Atlanta, no running around the town. What it boiled down to on this particular trip was guys were around each other, they got relaxed, and they let their guard down.
Oh, Derek. It's just funny to me because something that he never had to do as a player. When you're the boss.
Trust rumors?
No, trust. It's a hard situation that you're in because, and again, you don't want to throw anybody under the bus because that's their privacy, okay? Because you say, hey, so-and-so went to this and did this, this, and this. And again, I think that we glorify the nightclub, the strip club, the whatever club, the casino. The reality is if you break the rule, you break the rule. Okay, you could have been in a mall. If you're not following protocol, and I think that's where Derek was trying to go, like everyone's making like a specific thing that happened and it could have been something different. But it was like these guys broke the rules, but these guys weren't out. So that's where I think that he was trying to defend them of the rumors that were going around might have not been 100% true. But when no one knows a story, there's always going to be speculations. What happened? Because you always think the worst. And again, when a story gets out, there's social media, it trends. Do I believe that there was somebody in the team that went out to a nightclub? Yes. Do I believe that it was the whole team? No. Was it the main reason that they all caught COVID? No. But was it a reason and it looked bad? Absolutely. So I think that this showed individuals, and if I'm a general manager and I have to be the one that gives my face to the public and have to apologize, and then everyone make fun of me, basically, like look at Derek apologizing for his team. You have to tell players, hey, this is how our brand and our team is affected. Not only you're affecting us on the playing field, because if you don't have the best players that are on the roster and you are filling up with younger players, your chances of winning are less. So you're not going to competing for a playoff. Okay. But also you're putting yourself out there to be looked at as a team that's not following the rules. And right now in the stage that we are in the United States, there's a group that doesn't care. And there's a group that wants people to follow the rules, and meaning follow the rules, because we want everyone else to be safe. And that's how we're viewing this. We don't care if you get your team and yourself sick. We're just scared that you're going to go get another team sick and you're not respecting another team in the other league. So for a league that gets upset about bat flipping and showing up your opponents and your fellow brother, and they drill guys because of not respecting, this should be an unwritten rule of during COVID-19, follow the rules and keep your fellow teammates and fellow other guys on other teams and other leagues safe, because that's what's going to keep the league going. If not, everyone's going to have to go home. No one's going to get paid, and there's going to be no MLB, and that's not good for anybody.
And I think there was a quote from John Lester who talked about how you have to hold your teammates accountable, and you have to, you yourself have to do the policing. And they said, they hung out, but they were all social distance and they didn't go out anywhere. And that's what every team has to do. I think that just like kept saying MLB is a microcosm of what's going on in America and around the world. How you have some people who take it and say, oh, it's it's not going to happen to me, or it's not that contagious, or it's a hoax. You don't even know what these guys are thinking, some of them. And so I think I hope it was a wake up call for Cardinals and Marlins, who seem to have had the most positive cases of all the teams. And like I saw, I forgot who it was that said from the Cubs, not everybody who tests positive was doing something wrong, right? Mm-hmm. Because they just could have been in contact with somebody who broke protocol. And like Ozzy said, even if it wasn't going to a nightclub, Derek said somebody went to get coffee. There's coffee in the hotel. I mean, and I'm sorry, maybe it's not Starbucks, but you can, it is what it is. This is a situation that you're in. It's not easy. We all know it's not easy. We've all been quarantined for a very long amount of time. It's not easy. But
we all have to make sacrifices. I mean,
well, it's like when you're a kid and everyone's playing in the outside and your mom tells you have to stay in because you have the flu, and everyone's playing and you're like, but I feel okay because it's been 2 days after it. That's what's happening to Major League Baseball players. They're going to these cities that are open and everything's open, and they think they're allowed to go there and partake in these things, and you can't. There's protocols, and something as simple as, oh, I'm going to go get food, or I'm going to go do this. Oh, it's not a big deal. Well, it is when you're having games canceled and other teams postponed and you're affecting people's pockets.
Absolutely.
You said that, and I remembered as a kid, I don't remember how old I was, but I was really, really sick one day, and the next day, my family was going to go to the movies. And I mean, I took a shower that morning. I prepared. I was like, I am going to the movie theater, because I was like, I'm fine. And so the whole day I was telling myself, I'm fine. I was like, oh yeah, I feel good. I feel great. And I was a kid, man. And we went because I was like, I put on a face of, I felt great. That next day, I was so much more sick. Like, I mean, I was horrible. And my mom's like, you see, she's like, were you? I was like, yeah, I was pretending, but I was.
Well, Ozzy, I know you have to go. We're going to let you go. Thank you so much for joining us. Always a pleasure. And we're going to throw to a video because we may be losing Ozzy, but just for today, but we are gaining some sick moves from Juan Soto. Check this out.
Josh Harrison, and now we dance. Someone's dancing on top of the dugout. I love that. Juan Soto dancing on the dugout. What's going on here? I love it. It's a party at Nats Park.
Someone's back again. It's good to see Juan Soto. He's back with the Nationals. He has yet to make his 2020 debut as he fell victim to COVID-19, but has now been cleared for baseball activities. He participated in an inter-squad scrimmage, got about 20 at-bats, but Davey Martinez, manager of the Nats, says that he still needs to work out a little bit more, said that he wasn't feeling 100%, gives him 2 to 4 more games to make his first 2020 MLB season debut. So he was obviously very happy at seeing teammate Josh Harrison hit a home run. He got to dancing up on the dugout. But
remember when I said, guys, we're going to have more fun?
Yes.
Like you that's what you're saying, because you would never see this during any other season.
No. Oh my gosh, no.
You wouldn't.
No. But I love that he was feeling it, and hopefully this is the injection of energy that this team needs right now. I believe that they have a 3-4 record, so they could use a little Juan Soto in their life.
I think we can all use a little Juan Soto in our life.
Right. And
it's fun.
I know. And what's so, and also the fact that the NL gets a DH this year. So that is another opportunity for him as someone who is coming back from a COVID battle, maybe just to be able to DH and show it off, because we love us some Juan Soto here. I'm rooting for him. There was a lot of speculation on, his COVID tests and a lot of inconclusivity when it came to those tests with, were they negative, were they positive, which test said what, but it's good to see him back. So we're happy about that.
Yes.
Some history making also in the Mid-Atlantic sports area is that of Miss Newman. Melanie Newman has become the first woman in club history with the Baltimore Orioles to call play-by-play on the radio. This is really incredible. She has been in this industry for over 10 years. She started off in the minor leagues working for minor league organizations with the Arizona Diamondbacks, with the Boston Red Sox, and now she got her call up to the majors. She is now just the fourth woman in MLB to be doing play-by-play, which is absolutely fantastic. So she made her debut yesterday with the Baltimore Orioles. Wonderful to see that. But unfortunately, this is not the norm. Where have the women in sports broadcasting gone, specifically when it comes to the Chicago market? Jennifer, you and I were talking about this, that when it comes to the layoffs, it seems, and the furloughs with sports networks, I know that there's a lack of funds there, but it seems like women have been the first to go.
Yeah. And it's unfortunate and it's sad that we are always still talking about the first. And that's what it comes down to when it comes to women in this industry and women of color and people of color in the industry. And it's unfortunate because you would think, because we've been talking about this for 3 months now, right? For months, when it comes to the Black Lives Matter movement. And then Black Lives Matter really brought up all of the injustices within every single industry across the nation, right? Not just injustices against the Black and brown community, but also women in there included. And here we are. You would think some companies would have learned the lesson out of even a PR and save face. I understand the layoffs, right? Because we're in difficult times right now. But why is it that the women seem to be the ones that are easier to let go of? And then also with Layla, from her Twitter account and from what she tweeted, it seems like she was caught off guard. Like, I mean, she wasn't even given a warning about it. And I'm assuming here, but that's just what it seemed like with what she tweeted. So, I mean, to the lack of respect or disrespect right there, it's eye-opening.
Yeah. So for those that don't know, Layla Rahimi is a sportscaster in the Chicago area, and she was doing pre and post game shows with the White Sox. She was actually a desk mate of Ozzie Guillen, friend of the show. And she was unceremoniously let go by the network. She was given an incredible opportunity. She worked so hard. She was covering all Chicago area sports, and all of a sudden they had a slew of furloughs and layoffs because of the lack of funding, which I understand. Networks are hurting, teams are hurting, industry is hurting in sports media. But she was let go. And it was a surprise to her. And she tweeted about that, as Jen mentioned. But it seems that, as Jen, you said, this coronavirus pandemic has completely pulled the covers off when it comes to really exposing some deep-rooted problems that people in this country are facing. The inequities when it comes to people of color, when it comes to racism, when it comes to the systemic and inherent racism that people may not even be aware of. But now we are uncovering the fact that this virus disproportionately affects people of color who are essential workers. The other glaring thing that it has exposed is the fact that women, it really has set women back a good 40 years, because women in the workforce are now having to be faced with making the decision to either work or take care of their kids. So if you are a working mom, working moms in the workforce have been leaving the workforce in droves, and not by their own choice. It's because they are forced into making a decision, because you cannot find childcare. Daycare and schools are completely obsolete. So now they are faced with this decision of, am I home for my kids? And if they're younger, then, able to take care of themselves, then if they're little kids, then you have to. What other choice do you have if your husband or partner works, or if you're a single mother?
Yeah, I know. And even if you can find childcare, there are many women who can't afford it right now. And I mean, the times that we're living in, so you would think that our leaders would come up with an actual plan to help support these families who are facing these issues of, you know what, I don't know if I want to send my child back to school. I may want to keep them at home, but how do you do that if you don't have the funds? And that's something that I'm still waiting to hear about funds for childcare, because we haven't heard that. we hear about, okay, kids can stay from school, they can do remote learning. And who's going to be at home with some of these kids? Because we're talking K through 12, right? And there's a portion of that age group, you can't leave them at home by themselves. So who's going to help them out there? And so it always comes on the women, right? And I'm sure that there are some dads out there who are doing their best, but for the most part, we know, right? Yeah. It's the moms who are going to be at home taking care of the kids. So so it's not even just here in the sports industry, it's everywhere. And we need people to step it up. Mm-hmm. And we need people to really look at the inequities, like you mentioned, Julie, and figure it out.
Yeah. The other part that is a really harsh reality, and Jennifer, you know this so well. I know this because I've been in this position before. When you see a woman get canceled from a network or get laid off or her contract doesn't get renewed, more often than not, it means that she has to then move to another market. It is very rare that another network within that same market or that same, mile radius would pick her up. It is also a sad reality of this industry that oftentimes women are not given long-term contracts. So they are only given year to year in the sports industry. Why? Well, because there is this inherent fear and this learned perception that women will leave the industry to go get married and have kids, in which case she would not return to work. And so they more often than not only give women year-to-year contracts. And that is a sexist fact because they will oftentimes give men long-term 5 to 10-year contracts. Now, I'm not saying that's all the time, but it is disproportionately so that men are given longer-term contracts where they are parked, industry term, at a network, and women are kind of on a year-to-year basis and are seen as expendable. Now, what does that mean for a woman who's working in a certain market who then gets let go? Well, she has to pick up, find another job somewhere else. Once she does find another job, she has to move her entire life and go somewhere else. Yes, there are men who are also in this position, but it is more likely that a network within that area or that market will pick up the man, but is less likely to pick up the female.
And it's not surprising because we see it on a daily basis. I mean, particularly in Chicago, don't know what's going on in Chicago, but we've seen a couple of women be let go even prior to this pandemic, have to move, just like you said, Julie, have to leave and have to go somewhere else in order to get a job. And it's like, why? It's 2020, man, it's 2020. Get it together. And even if it's just to save face, like I said on Twitter, even if it's just for PR purposes, do what you got to do. And I understand the financial reasons right now, right? But even prior to the pandemic, what was going on? Like why is there still such lack of female representation in the sports industry? There is, right? And even to those that are in the industry. Yesterday, I was on Sarah Spain's Twitter account. I mean, you got to follow her. If you don't follow her, follow her. She's a great follow. And she was retweeting, I forgot her name, Joy, who does, I think, NBA, NFL coverage for ESPN. And she was having men attack her because of the way that she looks, because she's a beautiful woman. And somehow, because if you're beautiful, you can't also know sports or you can't also be smart. And so we've always been pushed for decades, right? Women have always been told, you can't be pretty, you can't dress feminine, you got to look, the role, because it's always been a man's role. So you can't put your femininity and your sexuality out there because you won't be taken seriously. And you have to look a certain way. When it comes to men,
they can wear the same suit every day for a year and nobody would be any of the wiser. Yeah, it is certainly a double standard, and hopefully some good comes out of this. Hopefully more women will be hired to show diverse representation, because this is truly. What's that?
I said, we're here. We're here.
Exactly. I know. It is very true. Yeah, it is truly unfortunate. And it, like I said, it's a double standard. But moving on, let's talk about what the mascots are doing and how they're biding their time in an empty stadium. Mascots in MLB usually so used to having fun, either harassing or enjoying the game with fans. And now there really isn't that much energy to feed off of. So here's some great photos of some very bored mascots. I mean, you know it's bad, Jen, when the Philadelphia Fanatic is just sitting there twiddling his thumbs because he is a menace to other in-game reporters and fans of the opposing team. And he is literally just sitting there. And hopefully they're not the actors the pantomime actors who are inside these suits, that they're not sweating too bad.
I know, right?
It's just miserable.
This is funny. This is good.
Where's his trash can though?
Ooh. Ooh.
Just talking about props. You know, I love a prop.
I know.
This mascot looks really bored. I don't know. It's tough. I think,
funny.
you know, the hardest thing for an actor, and this is pulling from my days of working in the New York stage, but like when you have to basically react off of nothing, that's what makes these mascots so good, right? It's that they're reacting off of the crowd. They're literally feeding off of the crowd and they're able to interact with you. When you have nothing to play off of but a cardboard cutout, that is real. I mean, that is the hardest thing to
wonder
do.
what the players think. Like when the players are like, if they notice and they're like, "What is he doing?" Like,
You
what?
think the players are noticing them?
I think at some point they may, like, the mascot may catch their eye and they're like, I would
But
like
think
to
about,
know.
like, there's no kiss cam. There's no like opposing reporter. Like I know the two craziest mascots when it comes to like harassing the opposing in-game reporter are the Fanatic and Baxter, who's the Wildcat from Arizona. And he's like the worst. Like they'll go up and they'll mess up your hair, or they'll like steal your mic, or they'll like come up behind you and like ruin your hit, or try. And like the fact that there's just no fodder for them to feed off of is certainly, you know, that's got to be tough for them.
It's got to be. But I like the energy.
They're still trying to bring it as we are trying to bring it. Jen, really quick before we go, what has been, let's end it on a positive note. In your mind, what has been the most positive takeaway from this 2020 baseball season? We're just about 2 weeks in. What's been the most positive takeaway for you?
Seeing players have fun. And the celebrations, you know, the coming up with new ways to celebrate, it shows that they are really trying to enjoy themselves and just trying to have fun and forgetting about the ridiculous unwritten rules of baseball that have held baseball back for so many years, right? And so many decades, actually. So yeah, seeing guys, I mean, there's so many different takeaways, players, you know, finally taking a stance on social activism and all of those things. But at the end of the day, it's a game, right? And you want players to just have fun. It is a job, but I think when you see the players have fun, it's easier to watch too on TV with no fans, but seeing them enjoy themselves is good.
Absolutely. And more dancing.
More dancing.
More dancing, Zoto. All right. Thanks so much for joining us. Jen, always a pleasure. We will see you next week with more La Vida Baseball Live. Thanks for your comments. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time.